I was waiting on it. It didn't say live. Welcome back, everybody. Another Tuesday night chat with the Muskrat, Mr. Creole Catfishing. And tonight we're joined by Ted Ellenbecker. Welcome, both of you. Hello.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Tonight we're going to be getting into some nitty gritty with some fall flathead talk. And I don't know about you, but this is one of my favorite times of year is when these fish start feeding up and the temperatures. Not only do I feel like more optimistic every trip I go out about the opportunity, but like me, myself, being in the crisp, cool mornings, you know, the leaves changing colors, you know, all the aspects of the cooler temperatures and stuff. I just truly enjoy being outdoors this time of year. And so my blood gets pumping every single time we get to get out right now. So I'm looking forward to, I'm actually got a trip scheduled next week to go to Alabama. But but according to the weather, it's going to be tricky because right now it's saying rain every day on one app, rain one day on the other app. And I'm like, oh crap. AccuWeather saying one day of rain. The Weather Channel saying 4 days of rain. I'm like, I'm usually a Weather Channel guy.
You know the rain ain't going to stop you. I don't know why you even worry about that kind of thing.
Well, we're only going for 4 days, and so the rain on all 4 days could make a soggy trip. But you're right. I might just pull the trigger anyway.
Hey, the River Warriors get rained on, not rained out. I know better than that.
That's true. Well, hey, what do you say we say hello to some folks in chat hanging out with us already this evening? I see Mike Sampson looks to be first in the house. Sampy got a seat early. He said he's ready to go. Followed by Michael Snow over Fishing Mid-South. Thanks for stopping in. Greg Burgess saying hello from.
What's up, Greg?
How do you say that? Homa,
Louisiana. That's about 2.5 hours south of me. That's way down there.
He way down there. What's up, Bugman 22 hanging out with us? My brother's in the house, Dreadneck Outdoors. He's out fishing. I guess every Tuesday night now. He watches from the boat. I love it. I don't know how long he'll keep it up with the weather changing, but I think it's pretty cool. We got Danimals in the house. There's our brother Zach Murray. What's going on? It says Simplify Marines. Thanks for tuning in. We got Paul Edmonston in the house. We got Old School Catfishing with Cat Matt. What's up, buddy? Thanks for stopping in. We've got River Cats Tackle. We might know a little thing or two about those guys. Dave Garcher's in the house. We got a Facebook user saying, just fish it.
That's what I'm talking about.
We'll take it. Eric's out fishing's in the house. Stan 3, Bone Peaches.
What's up, Stan?
All right, Catfish Jody's in the house along with Skipjack Cindy. There's Mr. Bill Hopper, Warpig Catfishing, family member. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support. Let's see. Catfishing for Reals in the house along with Uncle Lou. Dave Funk's here. His ears must have been burning. We was talking a little bit about Dave Funk already just a little bit ago. So thanks for stopping in. William Winterstein's in the house. And I think my chat jumped on me. We got Chris Cunningham as well. I think I skipped him, but we got 43 people hanging out already with us. Hey, there he is. Operations Vest with Nets. We were just talking about how much we enjoy taking other people out fishing and the joy we all three share by putting somebody else on fish. You know, it's great to catch a fish and we all enjoy it and we love it. But there's just something about putting somebody else on a fish or even especially a big fish that just makes your heart melt, man. It just feels so much. It's a bigger reward than what people think it is. Butterflies and Sunshine, welcome in. Hello. Followed by Miss Becca Mudtramp. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. Go back to sleep. Michael Creech is in the house. Joe Cahoon saying, just fish it. I need an invite to comment. When you're tuning in from Facebook, that asks you to give permission for StreamYard for us to see your name. It's just I don't know. I guess I don't know. But in order for us to see your name, you got to give StreamYard permission to use your name from Facebook. But
always come over on the YouTube side.
You come in on YouTube side, or you can just type your name in there. That's okay. Yeah. But Joe, thanks for stopping in, buddy. We got Fat Cat Fishing, Sean Abney. Zach says like a 56-pound fish. Yeah, we we caught a 56 pounder this weekend. We took somebody new out and got them fishing, and they hooked a monster. There's actually a couple monsters caught this weekend down in our neck of the woods. There was an 80 pounder also pulled in over the week. Here's a quick picture of the 56. I might have to throw that on the bragging board this week. I don't know.
That is definitely bragging board worthy. Yep.
Hey, for the Ohio River, man, at our pool, that's a dandy.
That's a good fish anywhere. I don't care where you fish. That's true. A good fish.
But
that's
a 56 on the Ohio River is like an 80 most places, Hey, Mom and Dad's in the house. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, Mom is doing fantastic, better day by day. She's healing up and doing good. So, Mom, glad you're feeling better and getting stronger. And I can't wait for you to get back to whatever normal feels like. Is there such thing as normal?
No, not if we're talking about me and you. No. Normal? No.
I got it.
That is left.
Hawk Catfishing's in here as well. Dale Hayslip. And I think we're caught up for now. I believe we're caught up. I'm sure there'll be some folks.
My
like
brother Danny Stone.
Mr. Danny Stone.
I'll highlight everybody as we go. I don't want to leave anything.
Yeah, there we go. But, well, first of all, Ted, thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with us and talk a little bit about fall flatheads. So just to give you guys an idea kind of what we're going to do tonight, Ted's got a lot of experience, speaking on these topics, and this is one that he's passionate about. And so tonight we're going to kind of let him do, basically a seminar. Now, anytime you guys got questions and stuff pertaining to the information at hand, please feel free to go ahead and throw your questions in there. We'll try to get them answered as best and quickly as we can. But, we're kind of going to step back and let Ted do what Ted does, because that's why he's here. That's why we're so thrilled to have him. So, Ted, I believe everybody here and in the world knows who you are. But if you don't mind, Zach beat me to it. If you don't mind, kind of tell everybody where you're from, because when you told me what your water temperature was, I forgot just how far away you were. And so if you don't mind, just kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your family background, because we know that that is not good.
No, there we go. That's a lot.
There we go. Wow. All right. Well, I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is in the southeast corner of South Dakota, borders Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa. So kind of right in the four corners there. I live in Beaver Creek, Minnesota right now, which is about 30 miles east of Sioux Falls. And I talked to you a little bit about our water. We've had some water ice up here already. The sloughs have froze over, the lakes had rim ice on them. So we're pretty much done as far as the catfishing goes up here. We can do a few channels through the ice a little bit, but you can spend a lot of time trying too. At that point, they get a little quiet, Boy, I don't know. I grew up on the water. My dad had a cabin on Lake Madison when I was growing up. We spent basically our whole summer up there, But that was fishing walleyes, perch, crappies, northerns, bass, that type of thing. I am a multi-angler or multi-species angler. I fish everything. Up here, I kind of switch to per season. Like in the spring, real early, I'll go for some walleyes on ice out. It warms up a little bit, I'll start chasing flatheads, that type of thing, go into channel cats. We have some blues up here in the Missouri River and a couple in the Jim River. Now, by a couple, I mean a couple. I caught 2 this year on the Jim River.
Wow.
Two blues.
That's by definition a couple.
Yeah, there's not a lot. So, you can try to target them, but basically just catch them when you're fishing for flatheads or channels, that type of thing. Boy, the information that I got here and the information in my other seminars, I started gathering that back around, I hate saying the turn of the century, but that's what it was. I was basically at that time, I was kind of bored with fishing, believe it or not. And so I started chasing the IGFA line class records.
Okay.
And I don't have the money to spend a week trying to catch one fish.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, you have to start thinking about it. You know, I have a particular species that has to be a particular size, and I'm catching them on particular tackle. So you start making plans, you know, and that's kind of how like the theory of three came up, which is a different seminar, but it's structure and it's locating fish. And it just works, you know. Through the time that I did that and proving it, you know, we set basically 40 line class world records in about a 7-year period, and multiple species. And then it was just kind of off to the races. It was kind of deal where it's like, I'd like to tell people about this, but I'm gonna put my neck out here because a lot of this is a little contradictory to what some people think, you know, or what they've been told. But it's like, by setting the records, I have the credentials, I have the verification that this works, you know, that type of thing. Right. So I just said, well, and what are they going to say? They don't like it, they don't think it worked. Well, that's fine. Then let the guys that do like it and think it works, let them benefit from it. So here I am. That's how I got here at this point. So, and I'm retired now from everything else. So that's cool. Fishing's kind of it, and talking to you guys and the other people on the other end of the computers out there. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, they're still pouring in. So just thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, that's, you know, we've all heard and seen, you know, you've got a lot of different accolades behind you as far as, you know, articles, you've got books and DVDs and things like that out that has really helped pass along. I own them. Has passed along information.
Just what's nice is I've had the opportunity. I'm old enough that I've had the opportunity to fish with, you know, some interesting people. The first 20-pound channel cat I caught was with Mackay. You know, he owned cats on the reds up in the river. I fished with Winkleman on the Jim River here in South Dakota. Done tournaments with Hoffman, Steve Hoffman, and fishermen. You know, Lindner, Toad Smith. You know, I've met those people. And I'm just really proud to say I have. What's neat was they were really nice guys. Phil King, I don't want to forget him. He's a friend of mine. So I've had people that I've learned from myself. And I'll admit that I learn all the time. So that's part of it.
Well, I can tell you that just about anybody here in chat and Jeremy and I included, you would be the accolade on our list. And I'm sure anyone you have fished with would put you in that same class and category as they brag about their fishing partners in the past.
Well, I just hope they caught something when we were doing.
Well, you don't always catch them, but you know sometimes you learn just as much not catching them as you do catching them. But
sometimes more.
Cat Matt here said Ted is a pioneer, one of the guys I came up learning from, and that's good.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Matt knows a lot, man. He's a teacher as well.
I'll send you the check later for saying that. No, Matt's a good guy. He does a lot of work. He does some youth work too. That's really good.
Hey, this is a great comment right here. This is Dave Funk. We talked about him earlier tonight, but before this year, I would normally land about 4 to 6 flatheads a year on Hoover. After using Ted's theory of three, I've landed 20 flatheads on Hoover this year, including PB of 71.3 pound flatty. These are he is a determined angler. Yes, he is on the hunt for the state record, and I truly believe he will get it.
He could do it. He sure could. He's got the scope on the bullseye now. He's got it marked.
He's definitely determined and skilled at the same time. So let's talk about fall flathead. So first question that pops into mind is what determines fall?
To me, it would be water temps.
Right.
You know, basically. Now, see, this is where, to be transparent for people, because we got kind of a national audience here.
Yeah, right.
Like I say, I've had freeze over up here already where you are. Possibly you're never going to freeze. So
that's me.
I can only tell you what I have been associated with, but I think you can transcribe it into fit you too as we go along. But up here in the spring, you know, 50 degrees to start it off, basically is when we'll start looking. They'll spawn in the lower 80s up here normally, and we'll fish fall flats until, like maybe upper 40s water temp.
Okay.
And by then they're just starting to get so sluggish, it's just really hard to get on them. You know, I mean, you can get on the fish, but to get them to cooperate with you, they're just starting to get sluggish up here.
I got
Okay.
you. So those of you still watching that got temps like we do in the 60s and maybe even high 50s by this point, depending on where you are, still got plenty of time to get out there and apply these techniques
Oh,
that
you
we're going to
bet.
cover tonight.
You bet. Yeah, down in that kind of temperature, they're starting to make their move into the winter zones and stuff, which we'll talk a little bit about.
Okay.
But they're still catchable. They're still looking to eat, you know. So, you want to take off on this?
Yeah, let's.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Let's rock and roll.
We're going to talk a little bit. Going to give you a couple tips about bait tonight that I haven't talked to anybody about, but I think that since we're talking fall, it's worth doing for a number of reasons, not just for flats, but for channels, blues, whatever. And we'll get into that. A lot of people think that flatheads are harder to catch. Now, again, depends on your body of water. Up here, there's scarce fish. In some bodies of water, you know, you got thousands of them, you know, and so it just depends. But up here, they're tough. Like the body of water up here, my favorite, the Jim River, my big fish out of there is a 52, you know, which isn't huge. It's a nice fish.
Yeah,
it's a big fish.
But if you talk to the game department, they've only shot 3 of them in the last 10 years that big.
Wow.
You know, so
it's relative to the water you're fishing.
It is.
Right.
And a lot of things I'm going to tell you tonight, this goes with the number of rods. Like up here, we can only use 2 rods. Okay.
Gotcha.
So when we approach a structure, we have to be very specific about where we're going to put our baits.
That's
you
true.
know, in some places you can put out 6 rods, unlimited, whatever. You're very fortunate.
Yeah.
But just remember, if you placed all those rods properly, how much better would you do? Rather than just saying, well, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you really thought about it, you could really double up on some stuff, especially with flatheads, because you can intercept them. And we're going to discuss that also. To catch flats consistently, you need to understand the species. They're not a blue cat. They're not a channel. And if you want to consistently catch a flat, you need to target them. It's just the way they are. They are completely a different creature. In forage, they're completely a different creature. In habit, we're going to talk about the deal period tonight, which you can use as a weapon. The deal period is a 24-hour feeding process that they go through every day. And if you know it, you can use it. Okay, we're going to talk about high sight fidelity. Same thing. And I'll tell you just a real quick story. I got a buddy that I fish with up here, the high sight fidelity thing. We'll explain it in detail, but he caught a 45 2 years ago on a bridge pillar, went back the year after, same week, okay? Bait was in about 2 feet of water, caught the same fish, and we know it because we clipped his tail, you know? And high sight fidelity is simply that flatheads will come back to the same area if it still exists.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if a log jam gets washed out, of course they can't, you know, but you can use this in a lot of ways. We'll get into that a little bit. We're going to talk about 3 types of structures. And this, you know, a lot of this is just all season, but if you understand the fish better, the fall fishing, which we'll discuss, it gets a lot tighter. You need to understand the fish to be able to do it, okay, properly. Otherwise, you're going to just run out. The deal period, we're going to get into now. Sorry, got one little quick here. To understand them, I want to make sure you understand something here about flats also. It has been proven in testing that wood is the #1 element for a flat. We're going to, you know, we want to put structures together. For those of you that don't understand what I'm saying, the word element, an element is simply something in that body of water, okay? An element is something that makes up everything else, like a window in a house. The window is an element, okay? Wood is the #1 structure element for flats over 10 pounds, according to tests that have been done. So when you're looking for structures, if you can include wood, you're definitely helping yourself out. Another thing about elements real quick, old elements.
okay? And in the fall, this is even more important. When the water starts cooling off, when these fish are starting to go to the wintering grounds, okay? Their wintering structures. If you can get an old element in a body of water, I don't care if it's riprap, if it's a log jam, whatever, okay? Bridge pilings, anything. If you get an old one, is what has happened is that element has become part of that water. If there's a current, the current has dug out underneath it, it's dug out between it and the bank, it's dug a channel around the other end. It's part of the water. So it's just like a house. Now that element has a basement and a bedroom and a bathroom, you know, and a kitchen instead of just a green tree laying across the bottom. So always look for old elements. Plus, the high site fidelity comes into play here. If you have a fresh element in the body of water, a tree that's just fallen over, fish have not acclimated to that as being home ground. So there aren't fish coming back to that structure. You know, in 2 years, you'll have fish that have made it home. Now they're coming back to it. So if you're on a new body of water, you've never fished, always find out what area on that body of water flatheads have been caught out of. If there were flatheads there 5 years ago, there's probably going to be flatheads there this year. It's just that simple. That's for like bodies of water you don't know. Or if you're trying to really eliminate water, you know, they've always been caught on the north end or Hanks Bay or wherever. There are probably some still there. So that's just kind of a hint there. You need to understand your body of water and the elements that are present. You need to adjust your tackle accordingly. And this, I'm not going to talk rods and reels and line and all that because everybody has their preferences. Every hook made will catch a fish, but every hook made doesn't suit certain ways of fishing, okay? So I'm not going to talk to that, but you need to adjust your rod, your line, all your equipment to the specifics of your situation. If you're in heavy cover, obviously you want some heavy line, okay? You know, you want something that's strong. If you're fishing wide open water, 20-pound line will land a 200-pound fish if you're out in the ocean, you know, and you got your drag set right, you know. But if you're in a log jam, you're in trouble.
Yes.
Just that,
100%.
just that simple, you know. I use two techniques for fishing flathead. One is slipping timber and the other is ambushing. And we'll talk about those a little bit. I usually use them in conjunction with each other, okay? In the fall, it works really well. Well, actually, it works pretty good anytime, but you need a boat to do it properly, or at least the slipping timber end. And I'll tell you how to approach those log jams as we go here. I hope everybody understands the more information you have, the better decisions you're going to make on the water. That's why I do things this way. That's everything in life. You know, if you have good information, you can make better decisions. You're more successful. The biggest mistake a lot of people make, and I'll just state this straight up, is they don't prepare themselves before they go fishing. They check I check my tackle box, you know, and I love playing in my tackle box. And, you know, but I also prepare the information. I start the information before I leave the house. Usually on Wednesday, I look at it as just extending my fishing trip. You know, it's fun. I'll call the game department. I'll call my buddies. I'll call bait shops and get some information. So I have an idea of where I want to go on that body of water, and then I'll start mapping with my Navionics maps or paper maps or whatever I have and start locating structures. Okay? It's just kind of that simple. One thing I'll say about bait shops, I used to own one. A lot of people say, I don't want to talk to bait shops. They aren't going to tell you. Now think about it. They own a bait shop. They want you to come back. If they give you information that isn't right, I will guarantee you it's because it's the information they got and it was wrong.
That's right. That's right.
They get their information from fishermen. All they can do is repeat it. So I have bait shop guys that are buddies, and I know that for a fact. So anyway, but if you can get 2 or 3 bait shops to agree with each other, you can pretty much count on it as being gold. If they all say they're up on the north end, you know, that kind of thing, or they're on the south end or whatever, or they're biting on shad, or they're biting on minnows or whatever, and they agree with that, you can probably count on it. Now, flatheads, I know you mentioned this on a show that I watched a little while ago. Depth. Normally doesn't matter a lot for feeding. You know, they like to feed in shallow water, believe it or not. They do like to strike up. We've talked about this a little bit before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they've tracked these fish, normally under 10 feet. They like the 9-foot range. There are structural reasons for this. I mean, this species developed this way. It does have an undershot jaw, like a bass, like a northern, like a muskie. Okay, it is a predator. Its eyes are up higher on the head. It likes to cruise about 8 inches off the bottom. It likes to locate the bait one way or the other, or the forage, and strike up if possible. It will strike on the bottom. I know I use just a simple slip rig, and the fish are actually picking up a lot of times off the bottom, but it'll actually be kind of a different kind of bite. It'll usually be a real jar with a lot of bounce, and then just sit still. And what that is the fish is tipped a little bit sideways and hit the bait on the bottom, and then he's going to come back up and take it in like this. Okay, and they do that obviously, but they do like the shallow water. I see a lot of guys fishing wing dikes, and they're casting into the washout hole downstream there, you know, on the end, 30, 40, 50 foot of water, whatever. And sometimes that's great. But a lot of times the active flatheads will be right under their feet up against the rocks, or going around to the point up on the hump in between the wing dikes. You know, you usually have that little mud island in there.
Yep.
They'll go up in between there and the bank a lot of times in real shallow water, and people just ignore it. Don't. It's a good place. They are one of the most structure-oriented fish you're going to get a hold of, frankly. Now I'm going to give you some secrets about bait. Well, first off, bait is really in the hands of the user, because some states allow some states don't allow this. Like up here, we can't use crappie, we can't use perch, we can't transport live shad, you know, so we're limited. We use bullheads. We can cut up some skipjack kind of thing. We cannot use carp, you know, so we're a little limited. So, but my favorite bait up here, I like a green-eared sunfish that we can use. We can use all the bluegill stuff.
Okay.
Like bluegills and, you know.
Sunfish.
So anyway, green-eared sunfish first, and then small bullheads, and then like a crick chub, and then a red horse sucker, and then a white horse sucker, or a white sucker. That'd be my choices. Normally I use, like an 8-inch, about the size of my hand, length of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people will argue with that and say, you know, I want this. Well, for the structure that I fish, if I use this, he's going to get hung up a lot.
Yeah.
He's going to hide.
Drag it around.
He's going to be a terror.
Yeah.
And some of the fishing I do is vertical into the front of log jams. And so the sinker's actually swinging free, and it will drop an 8-ounce egg sinker. Even if it's calm water there, we'll drop an 8-ounce egg sinker, kind of try to hold the fish in one place. And then like a 10-inch, you know, leader, and let it swim around. That's fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't understand something about scent and flatheads. And in the fall, it's more important. The water's cooler, scent doesn't carry as far. The fish can need a little more encouragement, let's say that, because they're a little quieter, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, like, you know, how many fish have you, and I'm not going to say this will make a huge difference, but it might get you that one fish that you didn't get. Like, how many times have you had a flat pick up? He picks up, moves a little bit and drops, and he's just gone. You know, they do that. Okay. A lot of times, it's just because they weren't interested. They just wanted to kill the bait. Sometimes that works. But scent can be good for you. Scent can be bad for you. And I'm going to tell you something right now for people that don't think scent affects flatheads. There's research done on bass, and, you know, so bass don't really have that big a sensory or, you know, systems. Okay. Not like a flathead or a channel or a blue. And testing tanks, they could take a 100-gallon tank with a bass in it and put 1 drop of water in a corner, 1 drop of water, and that fish immediately knew that those chemicals were in that water. Immediately. That was a bass. Okay, now you got rivers flowing, this and that. They'll tell you right now, you can take one drop in 100 gallons. Now take the drop, cut the drop into 200 parts, that drop. And a fish will know it's in that 100 gallons of water.
Wow.
You can take one drop, divide it into 200 equal pieces, drop one of those pieces in that 100 gallons, the fish will know it's there. Now, where does this affect you as a flathead angler? In warm weather, in aggressive weather, it doesn't really maybe make a lot of difference, but I do it. It takes 2 seconds. If I'm using a fish with scales, I knock half a dozen scales off one side.
Yep.
Because what this does is release pheromones. It releases amino acids that tell this fish it's an injured fish. Basically, yeah, you've got the hook through him, but you can add to it with it. I don't want, don't kill the fish, don't beat him up, but just take your knife edge, dull side, and just flick a half a dozen scales off him. It takes 2 seconds. If you've got a fish like a bullhead, if you cut the tail fin, it'll do the exact same thing. And it will not harm the bullhead, okay? But it'll do the same thing. Now, what does this do for you? Obviously, like in a river where it's flowing real fast or whatever, they're probably not going to pick up too much on that scent. But when they mouth that bait, now all of a sudden they're getting this infusion of chemicals that tell them to eat, to tell them this is what I'm looking for. It's the injured fish. And the amino acids are the same amino acids that fisheries use, that raise fish commercially to induce them to feed.
I got you.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is also used commercially to people that raise trout, salmon, and all this and that. These same chemicals are in their feed to make them eat more and be aggressive about it. So the way I look at it, if it gets me one more fish today, or it gets me that one big bite that was going to just drop it, and he hung on to it, he inhaled it instead of spitting it out, I'm going to do it because it costs me nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes no time. And if you do that for blue cats and channels, believe it or not, it can help you too. It just does.
Okay.
Now, another thing, if you're using cut bait while we're talking baits, a lot of times you run short on cut bait. Like you're running out of bait, whatever, your bait gets weak, just step on it. Seriously. You can.
I've done
it.
You
can totally revitalize a piece of cut bait, put it on the bottom of the boat and step on it, and it opens up all kinds of cells, a whole new avenue of good smells and tastes and everything else, and you can use it twice. Sometimes people don't like to do that, but the only thing is, if you put it on the bottom of the boat, you might get the negative effect. If you have been handling gasoline, it can do the same thing. That can cause the fish to actually pick up and spit it out.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the time, but here again, it's kind of like running a race. If you're running a 100-yard dash and you run a 10 flat, woohoo! But the guy next to you runs a 9.9, he beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just that quick, but he beat you. And I spend money to fish, and it takes my time, and I like to get everything I can out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also like to walk away knowing that I did it right. It's just that kind of, whether I catch anything or not, at least I could say I did it right. There you go.
Yeah.
It's fishing. But some people just don't, and you don't have to do everything. And like I say, it just, some people think, oh, that's pretty complicated. Well, you're sitting here with $4,000 worth of electronics in your boat. What's complicated? I mean, I like my electronics. Don't get me wrong. I do. My wife will tell you that. I have some. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't take the time to do it, your electronics do you no good, because I'm just going to tell you one fact. One fact. You can take a depth finder, best depth finder in the world, you turn it on, you tell it to find fish, it can't do anything. The only thing electronics do is show you what you found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not cutting the electronics. They're great and they're
Right.
a lot of fun and they serve a purpose. But you have to make the decisions. You have to drive the boat. You got to point the transducer. That's all there is to it. And if you research your water and you know where you're going and you pick proper structures, and with flatheads, wood, preferably old structures, you're going to do better and you're going to point your electronics at more stuff, obviously, you know, and set your equipment up properly. It just works. On fall, we're going to talk a little, you know, fall is when it gets a little messy. I guess that's about the only way to say it.
Mhm.
It does. You know, you're going from the summer system. Some fish will be on the summer system. Some fish are going to be transgressing into the winter system. And the structures are going to be completely different, and it's going to mess people up unless they know
Thank you,
what's
Brandon.
going on. You've got three kinds of structures that flatheads use. One is a nursery, and a nursery does you no good at all as a fisherman, unless you're looking for like a little aquarium fish or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that way. It's going to be the riprap, big riprap, old tree root balls, you know, or rocks where the big fish can't get in, the little fish are safe. It's just kind of that simple. The second structure is going to be the staging structures. There's two types of staging structure. One is the active summer staging structure. That's going to be completely different than the winter staging structure. And I think you all understand that already. You got active fish on one, you got dormant fish on the other one.
Mhm.
I got a dog being nasty over here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
In the summer, I don't honestly pay any attention to depth on structures for flats as long as there's 4 or 5 foot of water. If that structure has, and I'll just say it, 3 main elements that on that body water the flatheads are using, it will have flatheads on it. It's just the way it is. The bigger the structure, the more power the structure has, the more fish will be there. And potentially the bigger fish, just like a big buck. He picks where he wants to be and he stays there, you know. And he's going to be in a different place than a little spot buck. Well, 60-pound flat's going to be in a different place than a 2-pound flat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the way it is. The winter structure, staging structure, is a little different. You know, it's going to be quieter water. It's probably going to be deeper water, and they're going to lose access to the third type of structure, which is a feeding platform. They're going to probably have access to a flat. They're going to probably have access or a shallow shoreline or a bay where they can go up into the bay. But as soon as you start icing up, well, you don't ice up. As soon as you hit certain temperatures, those fish will not leave that wintering structure anymore. At which point, you know, some people will say you can catch them. I think you're doing more a little bit of snagging that you shouldn't be doing at that point, because they're maybe eating one meal every 2 weeks at that point in life. To get one to bite, pretty scarce. But that's going to be a deeper structure. It's going to still have the wood. It's going to have current breaks in it if you're on a river, because those fish do not want to fight current in the winter. And here's where the transition comes in from summer to winter. You're going to have fish, like right now, we're in the wintering stage. Our flatheads are in their wintering holes. Okay, they moved out of some of the small rivers into the Missouri River. They'll come back in the spring. Okay. If you're trying to get a hold of a big flat this time of year, and here again, I'm really kind of stuck because there's people that are still in almost summer, you know, situations, and there's people in winter situations.
Yeah.
But if you're not in a summer situation anymore, you're going to want to start looking for something in that area, because a flathead will not travel, and I know you guys have talked about this too. They will travel, but not like a blue, not like a channel. Right up front, we have channel cats up here that come out of Canada. I mean, they're running 300-400 miles.
Holy cow.
You know, yeah. I mean, you know, they're crazy. Brad Derrick, I don't know if you guys know him or not, but I fished with him. He's a guide up in North Dakota for channels on the river up there. And, you know, he catches cats that were, you know, tagged 220 miles away from him.
Wow.
You know,
That's crazy.
and blue cats will do the same thing. They will move.
Yeah.
They just will. Flathead, they've done tests. Back when I'll just tell you about in Kansas, they did a test. They tracked, I believe it was 40 fish that they tagged in a section of river in Kansas where they had 250 miles of open water. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
going north and south. There's no dams at that point. They had 250 miles of open water. They wanted to see where these fish went. There was one fish that traveled 100 miles. Now, okay, you know, 1 out of 40 traveled 100 miles in the period of a year. The rest of them were under 25 miles. The bigger fish traveled more than the little fish.
Really?
So now if you put this together with the high sight fidelity, you know, where they're coming back to certain areas, you can all of a sudden now you can say, okay, well, here they're summering. Where are they feeding? Where are they wintering? Now we can start intercepting. And this is where the ambush thing comes in.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, Kansas came up with a deal where they stated that it could be possible. They didn't say it would be, would be done. They just said it could be possible to create trophy fisheries in 25-mile sections of river on the Missouri River with flatheads, because they stay within that home range, if you will. You know, not all, but most, enough to where they thought it could be possible to actually manage them in that area. So that's kind of cool. So
yeah,
that's why I say when you're looking at a body of water, if you know there's fish there and big fish, there's something about it. They will be there next year or the year after, unless people take them out.
right.
You know,
Yes.
obviously, or water changes or something nasty like that. But anyway, well, here.
Hey, Ted, real quick, I missed a question earlier. I was going to try to sneak it in here.
Sure.
Question was asked about shallow water. Said that, you know, fishing in like 10 foot of water and suspending baits over the side or dropping baits off the side of the boat. Do you still feel that the bait is affected by the presence of the boat, or the fish bite may be affected by the presence of the boat in 10 foot of water?
Well, if it's done right, no, I don't. I don't believe in lights either. I mean, that hurt. I've spotlighted flatheads up in knee-deep water below riffles.
Yeah.
I've hit them with 500,000 watt spotlights, and they just sit there. They don't care.
Yeah.
You know, plus up here, I'll be honest, most of the water we fish is so darn dirty that if the light's at an angle, it's not penetrating more than a foot anyway.
That's
right.
A lot like where I fish too.
Yeah. As far as the shallow water and the boat, you know, okay, I'll talk about ambushing. Ambushing is where, and I'll answer that question.
Okay.
Ambushing is where we'll put a boat in on a river and we'll run upstream, always upstream, because when you're running the boat past the log jams, past the riprap, you're going to push fish back under the cover. That's just the way it is. At that point, they're going to go into the riprap, they're going to go under the logs, and it's going to take them an hour to come back out. So we always run upriver until we get to the end of the area we want to fish. And then we turn around and we start coming back nice and easy. And we'll actually go at like 50 yards, 75 yards out. We kill the motors and we drift up into the area we want to fish. We may put an electric on, but we don't even want to do that. I have foam rubber padding on the bottom of my boat, so if I drop a sinker, it doesn't kapoo, blow up on it.
Yeah.
Talking doesn't bother the fish. Actually, you can use a clonk on a log jam. I do. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's a catfish call. A little piece of wood, looks like a little paddle. You can call them right out from under the logs. It's kind of interesting.
I've always been skeptical about that.
No, I'll tell you what. And I'll give you an example. If you ever put minnows or suckers in a live well or in a minnow bucket like a float troll, hang it on the bank some night and see how many fish are sitting there staring at it in about an hour. I mean, you'll be surprised. You'll have fish staring at that bucket. I'm not saying it always works. You know, just like anything, nothing always works. Anyway, you drift back to your structure, and you'll drop the front anchor and let it come back until we're, depending on the structure, maybe we'll stay out 20, 30 feet. Maybe we'll go right up to the logs. I like going right to the logs. And then the current will hold you and spot over, we even tie off the rear end of the boat, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If we anchor up front, we'll use planer boards to put like 2 lines over here, 2 lines over here. If there's 2 people, we'd have 4. And we'll spread them, maybe 2 straight off the back and 2 spread out, closer to the bank and 1 over the channel type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There, you don't want to make noise. I'll be honest. Yes, then you will scare fish. You'll push them right back up under the logs. You're going to get in trouble, But if you can sit still for a half hour, 40 minutes, if there's fish there and you approached properly, you'll do okay.
How far did you say you like to kill the motor and come in quietly from?
50 yards at least.
50 yards? Okay.
Yards. Now, I know that doesn't sound very far, but if you actually look at 50 yards, that's a pretty
it's 150 feet. That's
pretty distant.
Yeah.
Fish in a river, especially like a shallow river, like we fish, excuse me, they're used to sound. I mean, in a log jam, you got trees going like this, you got all kinds of stuff going on, and they get pretty numb to that. But you bang on the side of the boat or the bottom of the boat, you're going to spook them. Yes, you will spook them in 10 foot of water. You have to do it differently. You have to be quiet. Not talking. You can talk all you want. They aren't going to care.
Right.
I wouldn't play a stereo real loud because you do put a lot of vibration out. Believe it or not, doing that, and they'll pick up on that. But anyway, so I hope that answered that question.
Yeah,
I think it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you, I'd like to kind of tack on a little something to that question.
Sure.
What about those of us, including me, including a lot of people, who love our spot lock trolling motors?
Yep.
What do you say to that about, let's say, being stealthy and trying to sneak up on them?
Okay, yeah, fine. As long as I don't think I'd try to do the vertical at that point. I think I'd try to stay maybe, say, 30 feet out and cast back and use planer boards to position. I think with that particular, an electric motor, I think if you stayed out 30 feet and you weren't banging in your boat, I think you'd be okay. I really do.
Cool.
I don't do it that way, but I mean, I use my electric motors for a lot of things, but I don't think that would bother them. I really don't.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't go right up to the log jam with it though, or on top.
Right on top of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that would spook them out.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
like
And then I talked a little bit about ambushing, and that works. I don't know if people do. It's kind of like fishing. It's fishing a staging structure that, like most people do. You're fishing log jams, you're fishing crap. It's something during the day. You can usually see it, or it's underneath you because of your sonar. And the fish are holed up there during the day. And this is where the deal period comes in. Deal period is a 24-hour feeding period that flatheads use. And man, if you would see some of the results on tests with this, it would amaze you. They have fish coming back to the same spot within 3 feet of where they left.
Wow.
Because what happens is at sunset or about there, dark, the fish leave the staging structure. Okay, this is normally where a guy puts a bucket down, puts his butt on the bucket, his boots in the mud, and he sits there the whole night, right? And he's catching some fish. And we'll say about 9 o'clock he gets a bite, and that's cool. 10 o'clock he misses one, 11 he gets one, 12 he catches a fish. 1 o'clock he's still sitting there and nothing happens. And he looks at his buddy and he goes, God, they quit biting, right? And I know I've said this, and some of you have probably heard this, but I got a buddy that at that point he would be calling his friend down the river about 5 miles, and he's going, what's going on? What? God, we were doing really good. We were going to kill them, and they quit biting. At 12:30, we got the last bite. Haven't had anything since. They didn't quit biting. They left.
They're not there anymore.
They left. They left the staging structure, and that's exactly what it is. It's a holding area, a holding pen, a staging structure. They left it. They're now going to the feeding platforms. Now, the feeding platform can be a lot of different things. It can be a shallow bank with a couple of little root balls or whatever. It can be a 2 mile line of riprap. It can be some ripples, a low head dam, a big dam. They can move up to a mile a night to get to their feeding platform. Okay. And once they leave, you've just emptied that out. They're gone.
Right.
Now, some people say, well, I don't know, I've caught fish at 3 or 4 o'clock then. Well, you got to look what's downstream. If you have another small staging structure downstream, you have fish moving up from there too.
Mhm.
So you got to, so if you have a line of, we'll say you've got 6 or 8 wing dikes, you could have a flow of fish for 6 hours. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, because they're just playing leapfrog coming back up.
Right.
But at sunrise, the guys say, well, yeah, they're going to start biting again at sunrise. Well, then the sun starts coming up, and yeah, boom, you catch a couple fish. Because what's happened is they are coming back. This is where high sight fidelity comes in again. They're coming back to that staging structure where they're going to sit for the rest of the day. And they have tracked fish from the structure to the feeding platforms, and again, right back to the same structure, and actually had individual fish stop within 3 feet of where they started.
Wow.
And spend the day and sit again, But an ambushing is kind of that way. That's what that is. You're sitting there, you're waiting for them to come out. You're just like sitting on a deer stand on a trail. You're sitting there, you're waiting for them. You're placing, we'll say, one line, on the flat, right in front of the log jam. Maybe one right up against the bank if there's some water coming around behind it. One on the channel. The routes of travel, you're just intercepting. You can intercept the fish if you go with them to the staging structure. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Now in the fall, the problem with this is the whole amount of movement changes. Okay, those fish will come out again, but they may only go up the shallow bank and not go anywhere else. They may not go the full mile, but the pattern starts changing. The water temps are dropping, the fish start getting lazy. That's all there is to it. They don't need as much food. Their metabolism has dropped. Okay?
Right.
So they're moving less. They might even just stay where they are. If you got some young carp hanging around there, they may not move at all, And then as it drops further, they will leave that structure. Like not right now, but a month and a half ago, we had guys that were fishing the same log jams. They were fishing in July. And it's like, well, there's no fish here. Well, they're right. No, there isn't. They have started moving downstream to the wintering structures,
Gotcha.
And you can't change that. And it doesn't, at that point up here anyway, it doesn't do you any good to follow. Because, you could sit over a school with 25 fish in a structure like right now, and you could drop baits on top of them all day long and bounce them off their head, and they won't touch it. Maybe one will, but that's a lot of time for a maybe,
Yeah.
And so they're done. But in the spring, it hits 50 degrees, they're going to come back out, and they will come back up to the same area they were the spring just prior.
Right.
And if the log jam is still there or the riprap is still there, they will go right back to that same structure. And to prove this, when in Illinois, they tracked a bunch of fish. They had a situation same as we have. We have the Missouri River and the Jim River and then the Sioux River that kind of come off as tributaries, about 50 miles apart. And anyway, on this situation, the same setup, different rivers. They tagged fish up in the small tributaries, okay, and tracked them in the fall. And some of the fish left the tributaries and went into the big rivers, and some went downstream, some go upstream, which is normal, into their wintering holes. In the spring, they tracked them, and the same fish that came out of like small tributary A went right back into small tributary A. Then that came out of tributary B went right back into tributary B. So it's just kind of you can really target these fish if you just study it a little bit and you learn the water and learn a little bit of history about what's going on with it. The other thing, I'll go back about bait. We talked a little bit. I know I'm jumping here, sorry, but
no, that's fun. That's
some people say that the cut bait for flatheads. And I'll be honest with you, yeah, cut bait can catch flatheads. But if I'm looking for a 30 plus flathead, I'm putting live bait on. Now, and I'm going to bump some scales, or I'm going to clip a tail. If it's colder water, I'm going to clip the tail. I don't want him swimming around making the fish chase. I want him to wiggle, because flatheads are a big vibration fish, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I want him to wiggle, but I don't want him to be able to dart out of the way, because that flathead probably isn't going to feel like chasing in the fall. He wants to walk up, touch his nose onto this, kind of get a sniff, and then just take it.
Right.
So if you take the tail off to where that fish can't be jamming around 100 miles an hour, you will up your takes in the fall, in cold water. Even in the spring, I will clip tails, just because the water temp's the same. The fish are feeding good. You can catch them 24 hours a day in the spring up here. They're just up. They're putting on pre-spawn weight and that. But I'll still clip the tails, because I don't want them to have to fight for that bait, because they'll either miss it, they'll kill it, leave it, or they just won't even go after it.
A couple quick questions here.
Sure.
Come in. Fat Catfish want to know. He was asking about the ping of sonar. They feel like that if I know for me, like just traveling and being around fishing for skipjack, the guys that fish for skipjack for a living tell you shut that sonar off. That ping will affect the skipjack.
Yep.
With catfish having more sensitive lateral lines than I think skipjack do. But can the ping of the sonar affect them as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I believe so. That goes back to banging on the bottom of the boat. That's not a natural sound. Like water pushing against your boat, that's a natural sound. Logs banging together in the water, that's a natural sound. You're dropping a sinker or banging your rod against the side of your boat, that's not natural. Your sonar going ding, ding, that's not natural either.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Something to think about. We do shut the sonar off when we're skipjack fishing, but we've never shut it off for.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, no, I do think that would have an effect on you. I do, especially the way I fish the log jams. I think I shut mine down going into the log jams.
Yeah.
But I already know. I mean, I already know the depth. I know where I'm going. Everything else.
Yeah,
you gotta be careful. There you go.
You've scanned it. Now that you're backing up to actually put baits, you're in stealth mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why we go upstream, so we can use the currents to come back down without a motor.
Gotcha.
And then we'll do drift socks to hold the boat straight if we need to too, and all that kind of stuff. Now,
Ted, do you have a specific location you find a lot of, because folks are asking about, where can they find some of these studies? And I Googled it, and there are lots of different, but do you have a specific location that you like to go to as a source for information for people who want to read up on these?
Yep, sure. Basically, I do a web search, but I type in what I'm like type in deal period, DEIL, flathead deal period.
Okay.
It'll pop up. Type in flathead high sight fidelity. It'll pop up. Structure definitions, it'll pop up. Yeah, but be very direct about what you're looking for.
Okay.
Like it'll miss the deal period if you don't use the word deal. It won't give it to you.
I got you.
If you don't use the words high sight fidelity, it will not give it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, and a lot of them are out of Kansas, some Illinois, some Wisconsin, some Nebraska. South Dakota actually has a few.
I got you.
Yeah, no, I encourage people to look it up. Don't take my word for it. I'm just regurgitating information to you is what I'm doing.
This next question here is actually one that I've had, and I always forget to ask about it. So for those of us who are using old two-stroke motors, right? Yep. I don't care how good you think your motor is. Once you anchor up and stop, you got these drops of oil showing up, or fuel, whatever, showing up in the water. And you're like, man, where's this coming from? Yep. Do you feel that the presence of that oil and smell, we're talking about the parts per million. Do you think that could play a part as far as deterring fish, or is that something that is not going to persuade them?
The only thing about that is that oil floats. And I don't believe it's going to mix with the water. You're looking at a time sequence here. Like if you drop, oil in still water and it sits there over a period of time, you're going to have some diffusion. if you have water that's running over, you're 10 feet deep, whatever, and you drops oil on the surface, you
Right.
haven't infused it into the lower levels, and that water just flowing by, it's just going to flow past everything you're doing before
Okay.
it ever gets into the water.
Yeah.
So
I got
mean,
I got an old Leaky
not
Johnson.
a good thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't really worry about that. The reason I talk about it on the hands is because I get that oil on my hands. Now I touch my bait.
Right.
I did just transfer it directly to my bait, and when
Yeah,
that
exactly.
fish picks it up, it just hit every taste bud he has.
Mhm.
That's right.
So that's a different presentation, basically.
Good.
So,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
And I actually have I guess it's a two-part question, but going
Yep.
back to the bait, especially live bait. First part of the question, you said you like using live bullheads. At
Yep.
what point do you think a bullhead is too big for you to use for live bait?
for me, over 10 inches.
Over 10. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got unlimited access to all the bullheads I want in a pond down
Yep.
the road. That's why I ask.
Yep.
Very self-serving question for me.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay. And they're great
I'm
they're hard to kill.
horrible.
They stay alive. They
Yeah.
work for you.
Yeah, because
they
I'm
aren't very
horrible
smart.
at the whole fall flathead thing. I'm trying to
Yeah.
change that.
Yeah.
Second thing, you said in your area, there's a lot of live baits that you can't use.
Yes.
But for if you could use anything you wanted, no restrictions, what would it be?
Oh.
That's a
Well,
good
And
one.
I asked that because I can literally use whatever I want for live bait as long as I catch it legally, like literally anything.
Well, what I would use if I had the capability to keep it alive, I would use 8-10 inch shad. The problem being keeping them alive.
Trying to keep them alive. Gotcha.
Yeah,
This time of year, I can keep them alive.
Yeah.
You'd be chilling, as long as you can keep them alive and you hook them properly and the current isn't drowning them on you real quick. I'd use shad just because shad has a really nice scent trail. They give out a beautiful scent trail. They have a wide body, which puts out good vibration. Now that's what I don't like about suckers. They're narrow. They're like scars. They can sit there and swim, and they don't put out that big fan vibration. Whereas like the panfish, shad, big skippies, that kind of thing, they put out a nice vibration for the fish to find the follow.
You hear that, Dad? We going back to the low sill structure. Go get some shad.
There you go. There you go.
You heard it.
Yeah. I think if I had my choice and I had the equipment to keep them alive, I'd go with. I think I'd want shad.
I like
But
it.
we can't transport live shad up here.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So
I agree with Dave. I try not to use bug spray either. I like to use thermocells and any other means necessary to try to keep bugs away. But I try not to use bug spray because, like Dave says, it always end up on your hands somehow.
Yeah, and and it does make a difference. And we're talking flatheads a lot, with channels, and frankly, in my opinion, channels and blues are more scent oriented than flats. But flatheads have actually just as much capability, but I think they hunt a little more towards the vibration side of it. You know, and then the scent is kind of like the final test. Now I'm close enough. Do I want to eat this, or is it a stick? That kind of thing. Yeah, you really want to be careful. And a lot of people don't think about that. But scent can also be valuable to you.
Oh yeah.
So
I got Dad
the
going.
amino acid thing, if you look at, there's a big difference when you're treating live bait with flatheads or bigger fish, let's just say adult fish, blues, channels, whatever. If you look at the difference in their forage and the difference in the young fish, like flatheads up here, if they're, say, 2-3 pounds, they're eating night crawlers, they're eating bugs, they're eating crawdads, they're eating little minnows, they're eating this, they're eating moss, they're eating a little everything. You hit a 10 pound and up, they don't even pay attention to a night crawler. I mean, I'm not saying you can't catch one on when you can, but I certainly wouldn't go fishing with a night crawler for a 40-pound flathead, because he's now a meat eater. A big blue is a meat eater.
Yeah.
A big channel cat is a meat eater. I mean, but when they're little, like blues and channels, when they're smaller, you can use prepared cheese baits,
Right.
you know, and catch them. A flathead won't touch it. I've never caught a flathead on cheese bait, ever, never, little or big or nothing. They won't touch it, you know.
Yeah.
But all they're picking up, they just develop into different sources of protein. All the cheese is protein that's being dissolved into the water. But a big fish won't hit it because it's a different type of protein. It has different levels of amino acids in it. And so to them, it doesn't taste right. And that goes back to flipping a couple scales off your bait or cutting the tail. You know, that's a food signal, that's a menu for a bigger fish, any of the species. That's a signal that this is what I'm looking for. And he's injured, I'm going to eat him. you know? Yeah. So
as part of their survival, you know, they've got to do an assessment on how many calories burned versus how the calorie intake, you know.
Yep.
It's vital to their survival.
Yeah. And that comes back to the chasing end of it too. You know, they would prefer not to have to chase if they don't have to. So, especially in cold water. But are there any questions about the fall thing? We haven't really touched a lot on it. The only thing, you know, you want to pay attention to in the fall is that it slows down.
Right.
And the structure is even more important, and your patience is a virtue, because they're slowing down on you. And
So
go ahead.
So with the patience thing, you set up, you found, you know, you got the current and the depth and the cover and everything looks good. You throw, you know, your baits back and you pinpoint where they are. What does the bite window look like? Do you sit longer during this time of year? You know, what is that time in the fall? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. You got to have patience. You do. That fish, even if you have your bait on his nose, it may take him a half an hour to decide to even pick it up. I mean, and if it's not on his nose, it might take an hour or maybe never, to where you have one that moves through that structure and approaches your, you know, and finds your bait. You know, just because they aren't moving. You know, in the winter, I don't know, you know, if you're aware of this, in the winter, flatheads, they have divers that have taken pictures and they have quarter inch of silk on their backs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they aren't moving. And that's a very progressive thing. Like for us up here, like I say, our flats are already, you know, they're in the holes and they're gathering silt already up here, you know. So to try to catch one, and it's better as you get warmer. I mean, you know, in midsummer it's this way, you know, early fall it's this way. They're still there. They've moved a little bit. They're in a secondary structure. They're approaching the wintering holes. And they're still willing to bite, but now instead of being aggressively hunting, they're just sitting there waiting. You see what I mean? And now you get in the wintering hole, and you could sit there for a week and not get one. But in the fall, they'll still bite, but you got to have patience. If you know they're there, that's the whole thing. If you know the fish are there, they should be there, and you've got, we'll say you're on a good theory of three structure. You've got three elements. You got your channel going down under the end of some wood hanging over it or whatever. You've got a little bit of quiet water break off the current break. And you put your baits in the proper places, and you believe in the structure, you know, trust yourself. You guys know what the fish are doing. You know, if you've done your homework, you got the area, you got the territory, you got the elements, you got the bait. There's nothing more you can do.
But in these situations, though, you're not actually marking the fish. You're fishing the sign, basically. You're fishing what.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, you're not marking fish.
Right.
I mean, maybe, but no, that's not the purpose. The purpose is this is the area, these are the elements. Right. You know, this is the water conditions. They have their quiet water. They got their current break. They got the cover. This is old structure. This wood the bark is gone off all this stuff. There should be some flatheads in here, or at least a flathead in here.
Yeah.
Then you set up properly on it. You know, just like on a deer stand, archery hunting, you're going to set up on this trail, and this trail.
Right.
And then you got to just wait. That's just all there is to it. And then move. You know, I'll give you an example. If I was fishing summer flatheads on my river, I would want 6 structures for the morning, because I can fish them that fast. Okay.
Mhm.
I figure about an hour per structure, not just sitting there, but I mean, an hour, travel time in between, set up, fish, an hour per structure. I'd want about 6 structures. A month and a half ago, if I was going to go to the same river, 2 structures, 3 structures maybe, and they'd be the best ones out of the 6.
Right.
Now, at what water temperature are you making that shift from your 6 structures to your 2 or 3?
Up here it'd be in the low 60s.
Okay. See,
I start hitting that 60-degree mark, and these fish are changing up here.
Gotcha.
Because they topped out. They're probably 85 degrees at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're down to 60. Things are changing. They're changing.
Yeah.
And when we're at 60 degrees here, our trees have already frosted once, and that kind of thing. So
and see, for us it's so different because like 2-3 months ago, even 2 months ago, our water temperatures in the area I want to target them in was knocking 90 degrees. It was 89, 88, 89, almost 90 degrees. Yeah. Now that water temperature is 70 degrees. So still that different end of the scale, but still a massive drop in temperature from what these fish are seeing.
Yes. Yep. And that's where you got to know your own water. I mean, that change could do the same thing to me.
That's right.
I mean, doing the same thing to you, it's doing to me, only going down to 60.
Right.
Because your fish have adapted to the difference in temperature.
That's right. Because my scale is from 90 degrees and it'll never get below 40 on my water temperatures. But it's still that. I know it's hard. It's hard for you to picture that, but it's in. Now I'm talking Red River, Mississippi will get a little cold in that, but Red River coming out of Oklahoma and Texas, I've never seen it below 40. I've seen it right at 40. I've never seen it in the 30s. But that's my scale that I'm dealing with trying to figure out what these fish are doing, what pattern they're in. Now, what do you think the possibility is that being I don't get that cold? Do my flatheads ever truly completely shut down during the winter?
I would say at 40 degrees you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you're at 50 degrees, you still probably have fish. But see, because then it turns into a metabolism thing.
Yeah.
Their metabolism is still functioning at 50 degrees. Up here at 50 degrees, the fish are actually starting to move out of the wintering holes at 50 degrees. Okay, and at 60 degrees, we're fishing them.
Gotcha.
They're still going to be a little off, but they're catchable. So it's got to be the same thing for you. I mean,
you would think, yeah.
To a degree, I think at 40 degrees, your fish are going to be pretty well shut off.
Yeah, and for me, that's a month, 6 weeks out of the year, maybe.
Okay.
Very, very short period that it's that cold. Yeah,
poor guy.
I don't want to hear you, Roger.
Yeah, so now for us to go flathead fishing, we'll be looking probably the 3rd week of May. Before we get back up here, before we go back chasing them.
Oh, wow.
So,
now, talking about water temperature, there's a couple questions here, but one of them is, do you use different size bait? Does your bait size change as the water temperature cools?
Yes. Well, to a degree. I don't use anything over 10, and I like 6 and 8s. I will try to stay with 6 or 8s all year long if I can.
Okay.
I mean, a flathead's got a good mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, even a 5-pound flathead's got a nice mouth on him. He can take a 6-inch bait without trying too hard. So no, I don't personally, but I do have friends that do that. I know some guys in the summer, they're using 2-pound bowheads, and they're hoping for 1 bite a night.
Right.
Okay.
And then in the fall, they'll go down to 6 or 8-inch fish.
I got you.
Personally, when I go fishing, I like to catch fish. And I've caught. Frankly, I want to get some bites.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 10 pounds. I want to catch one.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I've caught. If you're positioned, it's the same thing. It's all the presentation. If you put an 8-inch green-eared sunfish in front of a 60-pound flathead, he will eat it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is when he takes that in, he's taking the whole bait and the hook and your sinker and everything else. so you don't usually miss. But if you get a 10-pounder hit that, he's going to be able to get it in his mouth too. You're using something like this at 2 pounds, you're going to have a lot of 10-pounders just dragging them around, or 5-pounders just dragging them around the bottom of the river.
Yep. And end up killing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and killing it, and you're not, and they're never going to get the hook in their mouth.
Yep.
So,
how do you feel about big flatheads being territorial? If you pulled a big fish out of a structure, big log jam, is there likely to be another big fish in there, or has he pretty much claimed that area, or she claimed that area?
Okay, yeah, honestly depends on the structure, and depends on the time of year. During spawn, big fish don't like each other,
right,
at all. During the regular, like during the pre-spawn feeding session, we catch big cats right next to each other.
Gotcha.
That's just all they're thinking about is eating. They don't care. Once they do settle in on the summer, if it's a smaller structure, by that, let me see. Like up here, if it's the size of we'll say a single car garage, I don't just kind of, it's a little log jam or whatever. I would say you got one in there.
Right.
Probably. But if you got, we've got some log jams where, you've got 25 cottonwoods laying in here, and it's 100 yards long and 40 yards wide. There's going to be different territories in there, and
Gotcha.
but you're going to have to move. I mean, if I pull up and right here, and I take a 35 out of here, I probably won't get another 35 right there.
Right.
But I can go right around the corner or over here, 20 yards away, and I might. But if I'm catching little flatheads, I leave. I mean, if you're that's a totally different deal. If you start catching, say you're catching 3 or 4 or 5 pound flats in that structure, and you catch 2 or 3 of them, and you're specifically looking for a big fish, leave. Because if the big fish was there, those 2, 3, 4 pound fish would not be there. He'd keep them chased out, or he'd eat them.
Yeah.
So you can use that kind of as a reverse window to look at or whatever.
That's where Dad and I are going to fight in the boat right there. Is that statement that that's where we're going to fight, because I'm going to leave and he's going to stay and catch eaters. So,
well, that's
my dad's laughing right now.
Nice to catch fish,
but that's what he's targeting.
Yeah, if he's catch them all. That's great. But if you're looking for a big one and you're catching those 2, 3, 4 pounders, you might want to look for another structure. Because
look, you got. We got Dad thinking, boy. His mind is running.
Okay.
So let's talk about like typically this time of year, so like on a lot of your rivers and reservoirs, a lot of your shad and even your skipjack, they're starting to move back in the creeks, right? In the backs of the creeks. Yep. I know the blue cats generally will follow them. The flatheads do the same. Will they try to follow them to these creeks and temporarily stage up and find places to hang out, or will they continuously move to their home, to the creek to feed and back?
I would say it's going to depend on the water temp. If you're under 60 degrees, the flatheads are thinking winter. Well, at least up here, the flatheads are definitely thinking winter. They're not interested in bait fish. They're interested in quiet water with a lot of heavy old cover. And that's where up here, and that's where they're going to be. And they'll eat, at that point up here, they're only needing to eat once every week or two. One green ear sunfish Sunday afternoon will keep them through football games next weekend. They don't need anything else. But see, a blue cat's a different. Well, that blue cat's a totally different animal. Yeah. Cold water, they love cold water.
Yeah.
And they'll feed like crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I fish them down Milford Reservoir in Kansas quite often, and where the river comes in on the north end. I mean, sometimes you'll see those big blue cats with their dorsal fins sticking out of the water chasing shad around in the spring when and it's 50 degrees out. A flathead, no, won't be there. He'll still be out in the hole. So I would say no, they won't. A channel or blue will follow those shad up. Yeah.
Right.
And a blue if the flathead would follow them, if the shad were, say they're in spawn and they're coming up but the temperature's up in the 50s or whatever, then yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of depends on the water too, if they've got other forage in a more desirable place at that point, they're kind of opportunistic. Like up here, we have a lot of Asian carp. I mean, geez, they could sit there with their nose sticking out of the log jam and just wait for them to swim by up here, and eat. So it's kind of one of those things.
When you're fishing these log jams, like what type and how heavy a line are you using to pull these fish out of log jams?
Yeah, when we're fishing log jam, I use 60-pound big game line as a main line, and I use 80-pound braid per leader. And I know that's just the reverse, but the reason is because when I'm coming up over the logs, I don't want that braid on the logs, and the fish will stay off. But sometimes I'm like coming up over the top at angles, and the braid just doesn't work. But I like a double braid line as a leader.
Huh.
Yeah, and it allows the bait to move better, and the fish can pick it out better. It's softer, it's more malleable. When a fish strikes, he opens up and he creates a vacuum.
Yeah.
You got like a 60 or 80-pound braid line. Is what it does is like put it on a stick, so it's a pendulum. He sucks it up. It'll usually go, but on a braid, there's nothing holding that bait fish back. When he opens up and the vacuum hits, that bait fish just flies back in his throat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 60 is big enough. I mean, try breaking 60-pound big game.
I don't even like breaking 30.
Yeah.
No kidding.
You put your feet on the side of the boat and lean backwards. Pretty tough stuff.
Yeah.
And the braid line, I use the Power Pro braid, and God, I just had really good luck with it. The only time I don't like it is on rock.
Okay, yeah.
Anywhere around rocks, I don't like it. Then I'll go with the mono leaders. But
here comes a controversial question. Hooks, the type of hook. Now we don't need to know the name brand of hook, but a double action hook, a true circle hook, or a J hook. When it comes to a flathead.
Sure, offset octopus.
Offset octopus. Okay.
Yep. Or J hook. J hooks are okay. I really, really, really like offset octopuses.
Yeah.
I just do. I don't know why. They just fit my style of fishing, I think, is what the deal is.
Okay.
The way I set the hook and the amount of time I wait, the way I set the hook. That's the thing about hooks. Everybody sets the hook different. Everybody waits to set the hook at a different point. This much pressure, no pressure, just a jerk, whatever. Everybody's got a different thing. So a hook is going to react differently for you than it would me. But I like an offset octopus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I use the Achi D85. I like the offset. It's a double action hook. It's a circle hook, but it's also, you can set the hook on them. But for me, I prefer that. Let that rod load up and then just reel down on the fish. Is how I prefer to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then, on log jams, we're locked down. We have no drag release at all on the log jams. We can't let them go anywhere.
Yeah.
You do and you're done.
What's your opinion about lights for an element on water, like dock lights? Will they set up there? So I'm guessing, the lights are attracting bait fish, and is that an opportune?
Sure. If they're attracting the bait fish, the big fish will come. I don't really think that they might stay out. They might stay off the side of the halo of the light. Maybe they won't enter the big light or enter the light itself. But if the bait fish are in there, they'll come around the light. Sure.
They know where to find that bait. That's kind of one of the things we kind of saying to ourselves on the boat is if we know where to find the bait, if we know where to go, that we can get the bait. Trust me, those fish know where that bait is.
Yeah,
they're not going to be that far behind.
Yep. Well, it's just like they use they use lights to fish crappie.
Yep.
And perch at night.
Yeah.
Basically, it's because it attracts the minnows, it attracts the freshwater shrimp, and and the big fish come. They'll come with it. Like I say, they might not enter the light, maybe not. But they'll be right outside of that light.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is a conversation Zach brings up, and we've talked about this about moon, which not really moon phase, but the light of the moon. So, you know,
Right.
you've got a riverside, and you got one side that's you know, the light of the moon is shining in the bank, and you got one side is completely dark.
Yep.
All right.
You
go to the dark. You go to the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, I would go to the dark side of the moon if I had the opportunity. You know, but excuse me, if you check with International Game Fish on their world records,
Yeah.
and you check through the resources, you'll find out that 75% of the world records are set within a 10-day window, and the moon is right in the middle of that 10-day window.
The full moon.
Yep.
No kidding.
No, that's true. And 75% of the records are set there. Now, you could look at it as, okay, well, are people just more comfortable fishing on a full moon? So are there just more people fishing? Well, possibly. I don't know. But if they weren't catching fish, people wouldn't be doing it. I mean,
Well,
and the records are set. Like 75% of the records are set within that 10-day window. 5 days this side, 5 days this side.
So let's talk about the moon set and the moon rise time. So let's say you know the moon is in the sky during the day. You know, we all know that, you know, certain periods.
Sure.
Do you feel that how much of effect do you feel that the moon really plays on the bite, whether it's full or visible during the day or visible at night?
Well, it does. My brother lives up in Alaska, and he follows the moon because of the tides.
Yeah.
You know, and believe it or not, our waters actually have tides. They're just minuscule. But, you know, you can't really measure them. I mean, you know, because the body of water isn't that big. But it's still affected. There still is a tide, which means there's still an effect on the water, you know, of some sort, of pressure. So I would say it has some effect.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But not enough to deter you. So, like, a lot of guys say that, you know, they don't like fishing a full moon. It's like they just feel like they're.
Yeah, I've heard that, and that's fine. I guess all I'd say to that is they don't have to stay off my log jam. I'll be there.
That's the real answer right there.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like, okay, but personally, I like fishing when I can see. I don't like tripping around. You know, I'm out there to enjoy myself and be comfortable. And God, I don't know. I've caught an awful lot of fish under the moon.
Yeah.
You know, with a lantern burning in the back. I mean, I really don't have a problem with light. I really don't. I would say the moon, that the tide effect has more effect than the light. You know, that the moon has. That the tide effect, it would be more on the fish than the actual light of the moon. I just don't.
Gotcha.
I don't buy it. The fish are used to the moon. I mean, they see it all the time. You know, they're hungry, and I just don't. I don't know. I don't buy it. That's going to stop.
They see the moon every day, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is a good one here. Stan wants to know, what do you think is the best time for prime bite? So, day or night, moon phase. Is there a certain thing that Ted sees as like, I got to get fishing? Like, I got to be on the water here. You know, cold front. What is it that Ted says? I got to be on the water here. This is all the ingredients are mixed.
Okay. We're talking catfish.
Yes.
Because there is a difference. Okay.
Yeah.
For cats, I would like to, in the summer, I would like to set up by, we'll say, you know, it's at the point in summer where it's getting dark about 9, that kind of thing, you know, that area. I would like to set up 2 hours ahead of time, just so I'm set up. And I always catch a couple before dark. I always do. In kind of that witching hour in between, sun starts getting off the water. It seems like I always catch a couple. My 3 biggest flatheads were caught when the sun was up. It was still light out.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll get there, and then I will stay until about midnight or 1 for flats like that.
Yeah.
Unless the bite dictates otherwise. I mean, if we're smoking them and things are going good, I'll stay there, you know, all night. I don't care, you know.
Right.
But if it's just a normal night, between that midnight and 3:30, as far as I'm concerned, I'd just take a nap. But then the second bite, when you start getting that hint of light in the morning, 4 o'clock, 4:30 kind of thing, from there until about 8 in the morning can be vicious.
Yeah.
I mean, the cats can just go ape on you there. And that's where they're trying to catch before they quit, where they're trying to get full, trying to eat before they quit.
Yeah.
And the light changes where a lot of the bait fish, quite honestly, get a little confused and don't see very well. They turn into pretty easy targets. So that'd be my two favorite times. On water, I like a rising water on a river, compared to even now, not flood, but something coming up a little bit. I think that really helps to position the fish at least where I look. Dropping water, yeah, it's okay. When it starts dropping, they're going to go to the main channel, so you can still track them down a little bit if you want,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Time of year, spring is my favorite. From up here, from like third week of May till July 1st, kind of thing would be like for just about everything up here.
Yeah.
That's where everything's hot. They're smoking. The cats aren't spawning yet. Walleyes are done. Northerns are done. Everything's good. Life is good at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Dave says for him, it's after a heavy rain. He wants to be on the water right after a heavy rain. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. That actually, depending on where you are, actually triggers a lot of feeding if you've got enough rain to get some washout going, where you start dumping night crawlers in the water, and and just a little bit of everything, muddy it up just a touch. Yeah, the fish will go on a good feeding bench a lot of times.
I know you spoke, I believe it was it 2022 Catfish Conference?
Yep. No, 2021.
Was it 2021?
Yep. Excuse me. Yes, I believe so.
There was a question. There was a question in there if you've been approached yet about speaking again.
No.
Not yet.
No.
I got you.
Well, we had a discussion about it. But.
I got you. Yeah, I agree with Harold here. Harold says that when I fish when I have a day off, the moon phase doesn't matter. Yeah. You go fishing when you can because it's good for you.
Yep. Just go when you go. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the best advice everybody heard yet tonight, right there.
I mean, look, we got lucky this late spring, early summer. In fact, Roger and I were live. I had found this one little sweet spot down the road from where we were working, and just off the back of that old park barge, we just nailed them for about a week straight, just every night. And it was getting close to dark. Every night we would catch 3 or 4 within about a 20-minute span, and it would shut off. And go figure that last night we were there during the show is when we caught the 2 big ones. And then that was it. We never caught any after that. It was done.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not afraid to fish during the daylight hours. A lot of people, I got a friend that honestly, he likes to fish, but when I go with him, I won't ride with him anymore not because I don't like him, but it's just like say we're going to the Jim River, we're going to fish Milltown for flats or whatever tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I like it it gets dark about 9. I'd like to get down there about 7.
Yeah.
He won't leave the house up here until 8:30. Well, I'm in it to go fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever, but that's just him. And it's okay. Yeah. But I usually have more fish than he does.
I don't know what the odds is that he's watching this show or will watch this show, but you know who you are.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. But
well, my fishing buddy in here, Zach, says, Ted, you are invited to Southern Ohio to catch blue cats anytime.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Hopefully at some point I'd have an opportunity to take you up on that.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Well, and I can tell you now, Ted, when it's snowing and ice and everything's cold and miserable up there, you can probably come down here and fish with us in a t-shirt and still come catch some big blues. So you're definitely invited down here.
Yeah. The only fishing like that I've had, I used to fish Santa Cooper quite a bit. for blues.
Okay.
You know, and I used to go down there in February all the time for about 10 days just to get out of this up here.
Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's still chilly down there, but it's not like up here.
Oh no.
I left one year up here and it was 32 below zero. You know,
Oh.
and I got
Oh, my
down there,
Mm-mm.
and there were guys down there, you know, and they're wearing winter coats, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. Going, this is nice.
Oh.
You know. But
You'd
really,
have a field day down here in winter. You
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, well, that'd be fun. I've tried to experience it sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Winter up here is the same thing, and that's why I'm a multi-species angler too. I mean,
Yeah.
You got to be.
I have to pick, you know, this window for this window for this. You know, you hit
Yeah.
the best cat bite, you hit the best flathead bite, you hit the best walleye bite, you hit
Yeah.
the best muskie bite. You know, it's the only way to do it. Plus, much to some people might not agree with this, but I've learned a lot fishing, let's say muskies and northerns and walleyes, that I use catfishing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Reading structure, weather.
Yep.
You know, you still learn. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
So
These are all predator fish, you know that we prefer to target, at least in my opinion. And you know, a lot of these predators use the same dynamics to hunt and to survive as the next fish does. So
yep, they do. Anyway, yeah, but we don't have a choice. I could fish flatheads all winter if I wanted. I wouldn't catch them. So.
yeah, like you said, we spend a lot of money to go out and do this. You want to make the best out of it as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, we've talked about fish size and different places, but Stan says it the best with it's not the size of the fish, it's the size of the excitement. And you said, your buddies go out and they might put a big bait out and look for one fish, but it's great if you do get that one fish, but that's a long night to sit without no action. And I enjoy catching fish, you know.
Yeah.
5-pounders, 10-pounders, 20-pound. I mean, I really just enjoy catching fish. Now, do I want to catch the biggest fish in the water? Well, yeah. I mean, I'd love to. And there are times when we just target like one big fish, and we just set out to target a giant fish. But for the most part, we're just having a good time. We just absolutely love catching fish and learning and evolving. And you know, to me, I think that's what it's all about.
And you always got the chance of catching a big one anyway.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There you go.
You know,
time on the water.
Why not take the little ones in between? Well,
yeah. Dad says it right there. It's like deer hunting. You know, you got to read the signs. And Ted kind of said it earlier when he was talking about these fish wanting to hang together. You know, for those of you that deer hunt, you know, you understand that bucks, you know, in the summertime and the spring, you know, they're in bachelor groups. They don't mind hanging out together, and they're buddies. But then when that rut comes in, when it comes breeding time, they hate each other's guts. You stay away from me. You don't come near me. You stay over there. Yeah. And you know, these catfish are basically the same thing. You know, they get territorial, they chase each other off, and when it's all said and done, they're buddies again. You know, you can find them together or nearby at least.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's just kind of Mother Nature. It's the way it works.
Oh yeah.
But the big buck will always keep the best turf. And the biggest flathead will always keep the best turf.
That's right.
And they do. I know. You know, I talk about power and elements and that with structures, but boy, I tell you, you know, you can when you do it. I'm not going to say you can smell it, but you can almost smell it when you pull up to a structure that's just right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you've done it enough, you just get a feeling. You're just kind of like, okay, this one deserves an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us are trying to learn. And that's what we lean on your advice so much is gaining that knowledge of what's right. Yeah. What is perfect? What's right? And we're learning. We're learning slowly.
You want me to summarize what's perfect?
Oh yes, I definitely do. Yes.
Okay. When you're looking for a structure, and I don't care what species or what body of water, I'll just tell you real simple. If you can find 3 elements, and an element is simply what is something in that body of water. It can be docks, rocks, trees, riprap, whatever. But you find 3 elements that species looking for that you find, and they all have power. Now it's weird to talk about power, but elements have power. Some elements don't. If you take a stick and lay it in the water, just a little stick, does it have any power to concentrate fish? No. You lay a 30-foot cottonwood across the bank, across the water, across the bay, and it's a couple years old, that has power to hold fish.
Right.
But only some of the time, because it's one element, and that one element only contributes certain things to that body of water. If you combine 3 elements that are different, but they all pertain to that fish and they all have power, okay, now is what you've done is create a structure that those fish don't necessarily have to ever leave. Because you have 3 elements that contribute different things to that little structure, okay? And so those fish are just basically huddling around in there. Flatheads will leave to hunt, but they'll come back. If they all have power, power is given to an element in 2 ways: size and mass, the little stick or a cottonwood,
Right.
okay, and the relationship to the other element. You know,
Okay.
if I have that, and a real good example, let's say you have a river channel. A river channel is great. You got a little vertical element here, you know, okay, and you have fish that will travel through there, but how many fish is it going to concentrate and hold right there? Maybe none.
Right.
They might travel through.
Right.
But now if you lay a 30-foot cottonwood over the edge of that channel, now you're creating a home. Now if that current cuts out, we'll just say something like some ruts or whatever underneath the cottonwood, or you've got some rock buildup or the root ball's all messed up. Now you've got a third element that has power to hold fish by itself. So the object is those 3 elements are going to consistently hold fish.
Right.
Because where else are they going to go? They don't need to go anywhere because they have this, this, and this.
Right.
But where most people mess up is they're spoiled. I got a friend that I fish in tournaments with occasionally. He, he believes in deep water. I mean, he does. Heck or high water. Yeah, he's going to deep water, period. And, we had an experience, on Milford, fishing a tournament where we found a stock dam in a bay where there used to be an old creek, they dammed it up, but before they dammed it, there was a stock dam in there, and there's a little point comes down to the stock dam, and the creek used to come in through that bay, that's what they filled the stock dam up with. We pulled in there one day, we had 4 fish on in 20 minutes. It was like, let's get out of here. Don't want people to see this, got a tournament tomorrow. We left. And we went back next day. We got 30-mile-an-hour winds. That lake runs north-south. We had a wind straight out of south. We were dragging 30-pound anchor and an 8-foot drift sock, and we couldn't keep it under 2 miles an hour. And it's like, and the boat's literally trying to throw you out. I mean, what's coming up, I'm standing up on the deck, and it's like, it's just crazy, I said, let's go back to the stock dam. We just found it. You'd be protected. We could fish. We couldn't even keep our baits in the bottom. And he's like, no, they're out here in deep water. Well, okay, it's his boat. I'm a guest. So we stayed. We ended up with 2 fish about that big. We walked away from the structure we found the day before. We had 4 fish on in 20 minutes, and I couldn't get him to go back. So don't get stuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Point of the story, when you got your structure, you stopped there because you thought there'd be fish there. If you just fish, we'll just say you just fish the channel, or you just fish the flat, or you just fish whatever. And then because you've caught fish there before, so that's what people do. I catch fish on the flat, so that's what I'm going to fish. But if you don't put a bait on those other 2 elements, you just walked away from 66% of your potential bites. Because there's fish on there, but when you pull up, you don't know what element they're on.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yep.
People that can put 4, 5, 6 rods out or whatever, you have an advantage. You can do that. Whereas I have to put out 2 and then move the boat or run planer boards or whatever to get to that other element. But I always do.
Yeah.
Because they might not be there. I move over, that bait moves over 20 feet, and all of a sudden, boom. And you guys have had that happen. I mean, that's
many times. Oh yeah.
Yep. And that's the advantage to a structure with 3 elements too, because you don't spend as much time running around looking for structures. You have a place you can fish this. I can fish a flat. I can fish on some wood. I can fish a channel without moving.
So how much distance do you like to see between the three elements? I mean, obviously, if they were close, it'd be bad. But what ideal, distance?
Okay, I want them connected, preferably.
Okay, yeah.
I want them to touch end to end or whatever. Yeah. Okay, because then the fish are just moving in between.
Right.
So basically that way. However, there's no restriction. That this is a misconception. People, right away they think you say structure. Well, they think a pile of rock. That's it. Or they think a log jam. That's it. A structure can be a lot of things if it's connected. I mean, you can have, say you got, let's just say, you got a bay with some flooded timber in it. Okay, so you got the flooded timber, and it's a mile long. Okay, but on one end or right through the middle, you got an old road bed. See what I mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now those two will hold fish, but here's a good example too. But if there was just the flooded timber, is it going to concentrate fish? No.
They'll be
You're going
everywhere.
to have fish scattered all over. It'd take you all day to find 5 fish in there. But if you got a roadbed going through there where they connect, it's going to concentrate fish.
Yep.
See what I mean? So you can go down that roadbed, you can fish the roadbed, you can fish the wood on the sides, and you're going to have fish concentrated there instead of scattered through the whole thing. So just like wing dikes, if you've got, 1 wing dike or 7 wing dikes, you've got power or you don't have power. It's because of the number. That's just your number thing. So yeah, you got to pick your structures. You just do, to be consistent.
Yeah, and then going back what you're saying with multiple things going on in one spot, it goes back to that spot that we had found back in June after work. It just looking at it, it's a little bank cut in, but it was a bank cut in off of an oxbow lake that had Mississippi River current coming through it. It was only cut off on one side. Yeah. Big bank cut in. It had a scour hole in it, but it also had an old road bed running perpendicular to the bank because they use that when the water gets low to cross the lake to get back on the island. And it had an old boat ramp right there that was underwater. You got
a lot of stuff going on.
And an old parked barge that I was sitting on catching the fish. I'm throwing my baits on top of the old road bed. The current would wash them off and throw them right back down in that hole where the boat ramp was. And every time. That's where and a current steam running right on top of it.
Yep. Well, see, you had
a beautiful spot.
You had a bunch of good elements involved, and the fish were just hanging. My daughter describes structures like that real easily. We pulled up one day and we were fishing. We're fishing channels, and I said, "Okay, here, where do you want to go?" She stopped and she looked. She goes, "Over here." Why? And I said, "Why over there?" Well, there's just more going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. That's right.
Going on. And is what she was seeing. She was seeing some fish moving along the shore. You had a little bit of wind pushing some in the, waves in there. She's seeing some fish surfacing. There was actually some rocks for about 20 yards along one side. There's all kinds of stuff going on over there. We went over there. She caught a bunch of nice channel catch. The rest of the lake was just dead, calm, and flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. There's just more going on.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, it looks like Zach's tapping out for the night. He's got to work in the morning. He says, Ted, thanks for your valuable time. Very interesting information.
Absolutely.
He loves it. So,
well, thanks for joining us, bud. Good luck.
And the rest of you, if you haven't hit the thumbs up yet and you've enjoyed tonight's show, I didn't realize, Ted, it's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we've been rolling.
Hey,
oh no.
He told me, he warned me before we came on. He said, hey, we get to talking. He said, we can go by an hour quick. I was like, I know. Trust me. We've done plenty of long shows. But we appreciate you guys tuning in with it. We still got over 50 people hanging out here tonight, just hanging on every word. The chat, to be honest, it has been very slow.
Yeah, not much chatting, which is great because everybody's too busy writing notes down, to be typing on their keyboards. We know. Trust me, we know.
We love our crowd. We try to. I think we've answered it. We got every question tonight up to you. But it's a good sign of a good guest when the chat's engaged and just hanging on to the words. And Ted, you've definitely shared a lot of information tonight. I'm going to go back and rewatch this one myself a couple times to make sure I get all the key stuff in.
Well, it got a little bit scattered, but we stayed on track pretty good.
We gotta definitely have you back, and we'll deep dive. I love it when we concentrate. Kind of take a deep dive into one little subject.
I love it
because, like you said, we do get kind of scattered at times. Jeremy and I, when we try to cover up topics on our own, we get off track sometimes. But we really like to try to continue to do these little deep dives. And when you're retired, time does not matter.
Look, I don't time him out.
So, all right. Do you have anything else? We could do this until midnight easily.
But right.
No,
I know we all got to get up in the morning and get going.
I think at this point I'd just be repeating myself at this point. So,
well, Ted,
I've questions.
Yeah, I was going to give it a second to see if anybody else has a last minute question you want to squeeze in for Ted here. But we've definitely covered a lot of information tonight, and I truly appreciate it. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, going back and listening to the words that you said and things that have stuck with me for a long time now. And so I'm truly honored you came on and joined us tonight. We try to pride ourselves on sharing information. It ain't always 100%. It ain't always.
You do a good job.
Well, I appreciate that. I truly do. We try to pass along information that we've learned either through ourselves or information we've learned through others. And we try not to take any credit for stuff we didn't do, but nonetheless, if we can help catch somebody more fish or a bigger fish or just have more fun doing it, then we've done our part, and we can sleep good at night. So tonight you've definitely helped us do that for sure. So
well, good. Hope somebody took something away from it.
Oh, I guarantee they did.
I did.
Us two right here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, guys, we're going to let him get on out of here and get on to bed for the most of us. And we will catch you here next Tuesday night. Hey, don't forget this coming Saturday. I meant to have the thumbnail up here. We've got the Operations Vets with Nets benefit tournament that Jeremy and I will be hosting on Saturday morning. So make sure you guys are here and ready to go. We've got some veterans lined up to get out and good fishing with us. We've got some cool prizes we're going to be giving away, and all for the benefit of Operations Vets with Nets. That does a fantastic job taking veterans, active and inactive out, even disabled veterans. A great organization. Me and Jeremy are both a part of now, and proud to help them guys out, try to raise a little bit of money to help continue their focus and their drive. So be sure to join us Saturday morning, and we'll catch you guys. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday night, same cat time, same cat channel. Catch you guys on the water. Good night, everyone.